All right. First tonight is Howard Jennings Jr. in Black Men. This piece is geared to uplift, reflect, and educate everyone about Black men in America through three characters. Together, they are full of history and represent different aspects of our Black icons and leaders. Please welcome Howard Jennings Jr.
We would travel from Roxbury to Harlem to Huck, Fillmore, and Chi-Town, but they all been ridiculed, criticized, the black coffee cake fried, or maybe get on the melody of Coltrane, Monk, or Mingus, because we invented our own conversation through the sounds of donuts bopping over lonesome boozy beat buckets, mops, and espressos, with elevators taking us to the D top. We question day, and the blues questions night. You say, who's Jazz? Or who is Milton Jackson? Sad, you ain't got so the beat becomes another quarter note hung outside and dry. Add in a new time sequence of 4 to 4 and 2 to 2. But we travel, walking the clue to the beat of a different drum. So step lightly. No fries, no freaks, no barking sisters or hungry hounds, no bully crazy brothers, no crops to pick, no craps to shoot, no cops, and no gas hitters, and no drive you. So step light, no screaming babies in the cold, and no broke down elevators to pick our nose. No Cadillacs on empty or a Buick to even ride. Instead, we some boppers, bopping with long coats to walk and walk to a bow and other philosophy of cool and groove. So speak to me, Daddy Yo. That's in Blues Me, baby. As in Blues Me Down. Charles Blackwood. God first, country second, and family third. I am an American. I am a Black man. I'm one of the many Black men who served in the United States military with honor, pride, and dignity, despite not being a full US citizen. I fought in the Korean conflict and the Vietnam War. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps and over 20 in the United States Air Force. And when I joined the Marines at 17, it was the only opportunity for a poor Black kid from Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I rose to the top with hard work, support from many. First, my wife, Ella C., and my best friend, Fred Bunner. I am Chief Master Sergeant Howard Jennings of the United States Air Force, one of the very first Black men to make Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force. It was special when I did it over 50 years ago, and it still is today. Very few will reach the top. The war is hard on the soul. So when you see a military veteran, take the time, thank them for their services, for the freedoms that you enjoy. My name is Howard, and I'm no coward. I'm faster than the Flash. I'm stronger than Superman. I'm the chief, the man with the master plan. God first every day. The devil not gonna get his way today. God, thank you for the day. Go USA, go USA. Protect the free world. Greatest country in the world. I see in my eyes and the eyes don't lie. You don't hear me? Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I'm better than Muhammad Ali. Fighting for his rights to do what he do and to say what he say. I'm the greatest. Fighting for your rights to do what you do, say what you say all day and every day. I'm the chief. Green rising to the top like a Michael Jordan winning shot or a long three with Stephen Curry. Shit if you want to. It ain't bragging if it's the truth. Now it's time for me to move on and bow out. Before I do, let me give a shout out to my kids, Howard Jr., Karen D., Gregory D., and Pamela D. No D's, no F's, just A's, because they on top, like their pops. Chief, is out.
Like you wanna. Okay, now have you ever been with a player? Take you downtown where they treat me like the mayor. Take you to the crib where you take it upstairs. What's upstairs? Shit, I'ma show you later. Don't need a spatula, everything catered. Extra flavor. Go ahead, sprinkle some truffle on your mashed potatoes. I'm trying to love you. Is you gonna love me back? You only get what you get.
I'm Uncle Lenny G, the OG. Sucker free and prison free. You don't hear me? Sucker free and prison free. You know what that means? I don't do jail. Now I'm the hype man for the black and the star of black men. Lenny G. Taking over. Time for us to start pumping this up and people got to know. Black man, can you help a brother out with a job? Can you help a brother out with a training? Can you help a brother out with some dignity? It's time to break into and get the brothers out the streets and help them out. Like I say, I'm Uncle Lenny. I got nephews all over the world. Some of them are famous. Draymond Green, Ryan Coogler. I lost one of my main ones. Oakland legend, D. Mack. Day after my birthday, day before my birthday. My birthday was February 23rd this year. Let Oakland legend gone. It's hard to get over. I'm 74. Look good, huh? Do I look good? Do I look good? Anybody want to do a little donation for the birthday? For the birthday boy? Can I help the birthday boy out? Can you help a brother out? Can you help a brother out? Like I said, Black Man is written by Howie Belafonte. So I'm gonna read one of his little things. Yeah, so you get a little flavor, a little bit more about him. Round and round goes the merry-go-round. Very few get off and stay off. Too many stay on. Round and round goes the merry-go-round. Prison and jail, life ahead. Round and round goes the merry-go-round. Robbery and thugging, mean bugging. For what? Life controlled by the men. Behind bars for life. Get off the merry-go-round and live, live, live. Can you help a brother out? Can you help a brother out? Help the brothers out. Brothers need help in the hood. Peace and God bless. D. Mack. Nigga on the wall.
I'm checking.
The blackest man of them all. Belafonte, straight from 40th Street, Oakland, California. The underdogs, the spook in the hood, so misunderstood. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but guns will kill you and me. So what's it gonna be? Yeah, man, can't talk no more. Many brothers in prison can only wish they had listened. Young brother in his grave, given a second chance, just might be paid. Nigga, 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 makes me mad. Nigga, nigga, nigga. It's a name that brought us shame. This ain't no game. But brother, let me give you some game. Education is the key. Stay out of jail. It's hell. And never, ever, ever put your hands on a woman. Just walk away and live to talk another day. Respect. I said, respect your elders, even when they're wrong. Because they made the path for you to do what you do. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but guns will kill you and me. Words should never bother you nor me. So what's it gonna be? For me, it's Barbara Lee. No guns, no guns, no guns. Barbara Lee speaks for you, me, and Audrey LaBrie. Will voting set you free? Hell no. But all they give us. I want to end this with another little piece. One of my favorites. But I too sing America, red, white, and blue. This is a message for you. Do you know me? I am the darker brother. I am a black man. You brought me here against my will, and many, many were killed. But I too sing America, red, white, and blue. What can I do? I fought in all your wars. I gave you everything I had. You took my soul. Never gave it back. I built this country on my back and got little back. And that's a fact. But I too sing America, red, white, and blue. I'm talking to you. You changed my name, my culture, and history. I am a mystery. Messed my mind up. And I'm all fucked up. You raped my mother, my sister, my wife, and my daughter, mind and body. Somebody help me. But I too sing America, red, white, and blue. When the costume was written, I was labeled less than a man. And ladies were needed in the plan. Today, that still seems to be the case. Black man in black displays. Destroying black boys. Prison full of black men. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Judge me if you want. In God we trust. The bad I have done is many, but the good I have done is plenty. And yes, I have sinned, but we all have sinned, and we all want God's love in the end. But I too sing America, red, white, and blue. What are you gonna do about me? I am a black man. Free me, free me, free me.
Very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war, and poverty. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. They're the ones who's coming up, and the world is in their hands. When you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Na 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it now. Just you and me.
Howard's characters left a pen up here. Wow, that ends on such an intense note. Powerful. Howard Jennings Jr. All right, and our next performer this evening is David Rodwin in Miami Madness, a story about getting hired to write a musical covering the history of Miami, to be staged on a boat, owned by a Russian oligarch, produced by a guy who sold timeshares. Please welcome David Rodwin.
Tico, tico. Tico, tico. O tico-tico tá outra vez aqui. O tico-tico tá comendo meu fubá. Se o tico-tico tenta que se alimenta, que vai comer umas minhocas no fumar. O tico-tico tá outra vez aqui.
Madness. Who was here last time? Can I hear? Okay, a few people. So, for those of you who are not here, let's do a quick recap. I was, in fact, hired to write a new musical on a boat in Miami about the history of Miami in the style of Mel Brooks's History of the World Part 1. However, this guy who had hired me had no idea what he was doing. However, he was paying, and as soon as he put the first half of the payment in my bank account, I got a ticket to Miami, and I headed out. Now, I actually spent about 2 weeks before I actually left for Miami working on what this show might be. I was doing tons of research, and I had known nothing about the history of Miami, and I found it absolutely fascinating. So I wrote 30 pages of documents, of outlines, of scenes, of lyrics, of all kinds of things, really beginning to put out the idea of what this show could become, and I wanted his feedback. So he hadn't given me much in those 2 weeks while I was doing all this research and preliminary writing, and he told me I needed to come to Miami and see the boat. It's a 200-foot long boat, and we were going to have to try and figure out how to make it fit on the boat. So when I land in Miami, I get to the curb at the airport, and I see him coming to pick me up, and he is driving a white Kia sedan. I don't want to judge people based on their cars, but you know, he was supposed to be raising like millions of dollars, like he was a commercial theater producer, and he had a certain image to uphold, I would think, in order to get people to take out their checkbooks and write tens of thousands of dollars of checks. And a guy driving a white Kia sedan does not project the image I was expecting. But I get in, I give him the benefit of the doubt, and he says, hey, just so you know, we're heading to dinner right now, and buckle your seatbelts because I'm a fantastic driver, but for some reason, everywhere I go, people seem to get into accidents all around me. Then he lurches into traffic. People immediately honk at him. We nearly get into a crash. Other cars nearly slam into each other, and he just peels out. And suddenly we're heading off to dinner. And he's treating this like it is a normal way to drive a vehicle, whereas I am holding on to anything I can, white knuckling it for dear life. And he's really casual. He's like, hey, so how was your flight? I'm like, it was fine. Keep your eyes on the road. You know, I flew coach. I didn't have a layover. It was great. I'll send you the receipt because you're going to be paying for it. He's like, oh, so you didn't fly first class? I'm like, no, it was coach. It was fine. Don't worry. He's like, I always fly first class. I'm like, is that really worth the money? He's like, hey, listen, I might drive a Kia, but I always fly first class. And I'm like, well, how do you do it? I mean, you just find the money for it? He's like, oh, I never pay for it. I'm like, oh, so you get like upgrades with miles? He's like, no. I'm like, I'm confused. How do you fly first class? He's like, I walk onto a plane. I sit in the first big seat I see, and then I go to the stewardess and like, hey, I need some champagne right now. And I'm like, and that works? And he's like, at least 20% of the time. I'm like, what about the other 80%? What happens? Does an air marshal come and just escort you off the plane? Or maybe even if it was just the stewardess bringing you back to coach, the level of humiliation that involves, I could not conceive of trying to hustle someone like that. And suddenly I realized just exactly who I'm dealing with. This is my business partner. At a certain point, he's gonna hustle me. So I prepare myself for what the future might hold, but we finally get to the restaurant and we start eating. And I tell him, listen, I am genuinely excited about this whole thing. But I do have a lot of questions because in our initial conversation, you mentioned to me sort of in passing that the narrator of this musical, you really wanted to be a drag queen. And I don't have a problem with that, but I'm just curious why. I need to know the origin of how you came up with that idea in order to make it really work. And he's like, oh, well, it's simple. You know, I was actually working on a different show with a different writer before I hired you. I'm like, okay. And that show had a drag queen narrator? He's like, no, the whole show was drag queens. It was actually a drag queen murder mystery, and we were going to do it down in Key West on a boat. And I'm like, okay, so this is just sort of like residual stuff left over from that thing, and I might regret asking this, but why didn't you keep working with that writer? He's like, the guy was actually an old friend of mine. We used to sell timeshares together. I'm like, okay, I'm learning more and more about this guy. Every sentence, we go further into this conversation. And he says, but the problem was we would go to these drag shows as research, and quite frankly, he would get drunk. And I'm like, you're kidding. Someone went to a drag show and they drank alcohol? I would never do that. Don't worry, that's not going to happen with me. So he feels more reassured, and we finish up the meal, and he drives me home. Now, home, while I'm staying there, is the Hampton Inn. And while he's dropping me off, he says, hey, just so you know, tomorrow I'd like to get a really early start on things. I'm like, that's totally cool. I'm down here for a week just to work with you. He's like, super, I'll pick you up at 6 a.m. 6 a.m. I'm not functional yet, but what's the rush? He's like, well, we actually need to take a road trip. I'm like, oh, cool. I've been doing all this research and it's just been online. I'm so excited about the idea of visiting some of the places I've been looking into. I mean, like the idea of going to the Everglades or maybe St. Augustine. And he's like, no. I just need to pick up an RV in Gainesville. I'm like, what? Okay, so you just want me to go along with you on the trip? Isn't that the other side of the state? He's like, the way I drive, I'll get there in 4 hours. I'm like, well, I guess we can talk about the show while driving. So, okay, I'll see you in the morning. And the next morning, he is there sharp at 6 a.m. I can barely even form a word. So when we get in the car, I say, hey, would you mind if I just took a little nap and like just for an hour, and then we can dig into stuff? He's like, that's fine. I actually have some calls to make. So he begins calls, and he's speaking to someone who is either a partner or an assistant. I can't really tell. And I still don't know what deals this guy does. He's in business and he does deals and he somehow makes money, but I don't know how. And he's having this conversation with this woman, and there's a certain rhythm to the conversation. He usually says something and he tries some sort of angle on some project they're working on. And then she says, no. Noah, I told you, we can't do that. You know, we've already signed the contract. We can't go back on it at this point. And he tries another angle. And then she says, no. Noah, I told you, if we did that, the IRS will be down our throats. We can't do that. And then he tries another angle. And she says, no. Noah, I told you that's illegal. Don't ask me to do that again. Now I really know who I'm dealing with, and I'm just getting scared and more scared. So I, after about an hour, pretend to wake up from a nap that I was never actually on. And I say, hey, I'd love to dig into our work now. Let's talk about all the stuff that I sent you. You know, it's pages and pages. I'm not sure where to begin. What stood out for you? What did you like the most? And he turns and looks at me and he's like, wow, there's so much. I mean, what part did you like the most? I'm like, oh man, this dude can't even hide that he did no homework whatsoever. He hired a writer. He's already paid me half up front and he's not spending any time reading. So I've dealt with this before. I realize I'm going to have to pitch him on every single idea. And I tell him, well, you know, there are a lot of different places to begin, but let's start really personally. You know, my great-grandparents actually lived in Miami. And because of that, I have a very particular personal feeling about Miami. I remember when I was a little kid coming down there and like how hot and humid it was, like you could practically cut through the air. And I also had this idea, I'm Jewish and my great-grandparents, like they were literally from the old country. They spoke Yiddish. They came over from Ukraine and Poland and Russia, and they had this Jewishness about them that I assumed all of Miami was like that. But in my research, I discovered that Jews are actually an innovation in Florida. And in fact, when the Spanish first came to the Americas and declared that Florida was a colony of theirs, the laws in effect in 1520 were the laws of the Inquisition. So for the next 300 years, if you were a Jew and you stepped into Florida, you could legally be imprisoned and executed. Because of that, you will find very few Jews in Florida between 1520 and 1821, when it finally became a state. And in fact, Miami didn't get founded until 1896, and it was founded by a raging anti-Semite who also happened to be a railroad magnate. So he was the guy who built the railroad down to Miami, and at the end, at the terminus, he built this amazing hotel, this majestic place. And out front, he wrote in a big sign, "No Jews and no dogs." And he ended the sign there because he wasn't worried about black folk coming in, because he told his staff to just simply, if they came in the front door, arrest them and send them to jail. That's the kind of guy who founded Miami. Now, Miami Beach is a slightly different story. There's a guy named Carl Fisher who founded Miami Beach. Now, he made his money making headlamps for the Model T Ford. And he had a lot in common with Henry Ford. Both of them loved cars and they hated Jews. And he took all of his money, Carl Fisher, and he built the first highway in America from Michigan all the way down to Miami, called the Dixie Highway. It still exists. And once he got to Miami, he was really bummed out because there was already a really rich guy who basically owned the town, and he wanted a place for himself. So he's standing at the beach in Miami, looking out into the ocean, and suddenly in the distance, he sees some banyan trees. And he asks someone, "What is that out there?" And they say, "Oh, it's just a sandbar with a few trees, not a big deal." But Carl Fisher knows how to build roads and bridges, and he wants a place for himself. So he builds a bridge into Biscayne Bay out to the sandbar. And because bulldozers had not yet been invented, he then buys a bunch of elephants. Swear to God, this is true. You can find fake photos of this. And he has the elephants drag hundreds of tons of sand out to the sandbar, and he physically builds Miami Beach from nothing. Now, when he founds the city in the initial charter in 1915, he does something really extraordinary. Of the 50 streets that make up Miami Beach, he specifies in the charter that no Jew may live above 5th Street. So if you've ever heard of South Beach, that was originally just a Jewish ghetto. Now, because of that, there were not a lot of Jews who were racing over to Miami Beach at the time. However, Carl Fisher was really trying as hard as he could to get people to come and visit and be tourists at Miami Beach. So he was so excited about this that he wrote the copy for his own ads that he took out in papers around the country. These ads ran for decades, starting in 1915. And the copy for the ad simply said, "Miami Beach, always a view, never a Jew." It's calling for a very particular audience. And all I can imagine was there was some couple in Kansas, and they're sitting there reading their morning paper. And suddenly the guy is like, honey, remember I wanted to go to the beach, but I was afraid there would be Jews? Now there's a place for us to go." So Carl Fisher did a very good job of cordoning off Jews and keeping them out of most of Miami Beach. However, in the 20s, there were a few Jews who showed up, and in the 30s, there were even more Jews. In particular, there was the SS St. Louis, which had 1,000 Jews on it coming straight from Germany. And it got to the coast of Florida, anchored just off of Miami Beach. They could have swum ashore if they really wanted to, but they officially asked for asylum because they looked back at Germany in 1939 and they knew things were not going to be going very well for them. And the United States said, "Sorry, you're not welcome here." And they turned around, went back to Germany, and they were all killed in the death camps. Luckily, America has figured out how to deal with asylum seekers since then. So luckily, something like that would never happen these days. But over time, the Holocaust happened. At the end of World War II, something interesting developed. First of all, Carl Fisher died. Second of all, more Jews moved to Miami Beach than any other place in the entire world except Israel, to the point where by the 50s, it was actually majority Jewish. And the thing that makes me so happy about that is that it started getting nicknames like Little Jerusalem and the Shtetl by the Sea, which simply must have made Carl Fisher roll over in his grave. And I'm telling Noah, the producer, all of this, and I think it's a fantastic story, and he does not seem very excited by the whole thing. But we don't have time to discuss it that much more because suddenly we're in Gainesville and we buy an RV and suddenly we're in an RV heading back to Miami. It's a long day of driving. And about half an hour outside of town, suddenly some black smoke starts coming out of the steering column. We pull over immediately. The RV has overheated and we're trying to figure out what to do because it's Sunday around 6 p.m. and it is barren at this point. As soon as you get outside of Gainesville, it is nothing but swamp and alligators. So we're on the side of the road trying to figure out what to do. He doesn't have AAA. And he comes up with this idea. He's heard that to take heat off of the engine, you can turn on the heat inside the car, inside the RV, and turn on the fan as high as it'll go. So we decide to give this a try while driving very slowly. And it's like 110 degrees in the cab of the RV. So we roll down the windows, but it's the first week of September and it's 95 degrees outside. And that doesn't really cool us down very much. But we're on our way back to Miami and sweating bullets the entire time. But we only have a week to work on this show while I'm down in Miami. So I push forward and I say, listen, there are a bunch of different things we need to talk about. First of all, you'd said that there was a scene you wanted with Native Americans, and that's going to be really tricky because, and as I am saying this, we get some texts from the costume designer. She has actually designed all the costumes for the Native American scene, and she has found a model for them herself. And she has sent us the picture of her basically wearing a leather bikini and a tiny little leather miniskirt with fringes down here, barely covering her bits. And she even has a leather headband with a feather on top. And I tell Noah, listen, we have to talk about this right now. We cannot do any kind of presentation in red face with white people playing Native Americans. It's not going to work. There's going to be terrible blowback from it. And he's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're coming from San Francisco. This is Florida. In Florida, we can do whatever we want. And I'm like, listen, you can do whatever you want, but there are going to be consequences. He's like, it's fine. I've already written to the Seminole Nation. I'm like, you have? Oh, that's great. What did they say? And he's like, well, they haven't written back yet. And I'm like, okay, listen, even the Seminole Nation writes you and says, we would be thrilled if you, Noah, more than anyone else in the world, presented stories about our people with Caucasians playing the roles in red face. Even if you did that, I swear to God, I can promise you, there will be white women protesting outside the show. And they'll be carrying posters and picket signs that say, Free Palestine. And he says, you don't know what you're talking about. People in Florida are going to love this. You have to remember that I know this town and I know what people love. And I realize at that point, I am just not going to win this argument at this time. So I tell him, okay, we'll table this for right now, but I'm not giving up on this argument just yet. And I would love to tell you more of the story of Miami Madness, but I'm at my time. So if you'd like to see the rest of the show, I'm doing it this Thursday and Friday at the Hobart Theater. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.
O tico-tico tá comendo meu fubá. Se o tico-tico tenta que se alimenta, que vai comer umas minhocas no fubá. Mas por favor, tira esse bicho do celeiro, porque ele acaba comendo o fubá inteiro. Tira esse tico de casa e se matou meu fubá. Tem tanta coisa que ele pode pinicar. Eu já fiz tudo para ver se conseguia. Botei ao Cristo para ver se ele comia. Botei gato, espatalinho, alçapão, mas ele acha que o fubá é que é boa alimentação.
Possibly go wrong with a show like that. Can you see it? David Robert, everybody. And our evening is flying by, but we are not through yet. Our final performer is Abdul Kenyatta in Back in the Day. If you never sat around in the living room or parlor with your family watching the radio, you are not from back in the day. If you were born after JFK, MLK, Malcolm X, and RFK were assassinated, you were not back in the day bonded and certified. For more about back in the day, please welcome Abdul Kenyatta.
I know you wanna leave me, but I refuse to let you go. If I have to beg and plead for your sympathy, I don't mind, cause you mean that much to me. Ain't too proud to beg, sweet darling, please don't leave me, girl, don't you go. Ain't too proud to plead, baby, baby, please don't leave me, girl. That's what I said. Let me back up a little bit and tell you where that came from. See, I went to a college where I was the only person of color on that campus. And once I realized that they had no African women on that campus, I went to admissions and I started talking to them about developing a minority recruitment program. And I was their minority recruitment specialist. So I would go around to all the high schools in New York City and plead for minority students to come to my college. So I'm making this presentation and I look over and I see this young lady and she is really gorgeous and she is just smiling and beaming, you know. And every time I come back over to that spot, I see her and she is just smiling and beaming. And I'm thinking she must be smiling and beaming at me. So I tell everybody about, you gotta come to this college. This is the best college in the world. You gotta be there, you gotta see it. They got everything that you could possibly need. And as soon as I could get off the stage, being a true Harlem Plan and meaning no disrespect, I had to smooth my way over to the young lady who had been looking at me. And the closer I got, the bigger she smiled, and it was like unbelievable. I mean, she looked like a Cecily Tyson. I mean, she was fine with this short, I mean, with this big afro sitting on her shoulders, Angela Davis kind of hairstyle. And I was like, man, she is so fine. So I go over and I start talking to her, and it just seems like we get along absolutely fine. And so I asked her out for a date. Going out on a date, so I get clean as a board of health, you know, I got on a 3-piece suit and it's black, you know, and I look like the opposite of Saturday Night Live, but I'm cool. And I decided that I'm going to take her to Slugs, which is a jazz club. And she'd never been to a jazz club before, and I had a feeling she'd never been to a jazz club before. So I take her down to the jazz club. It's in Alphabet City in New York, and we bopping down the street, and we get to Slugs. Now, I have met Miles Davis maybe 15 times. I've been introduced to him by my grandfather at least 5 times. And he never really looked at me. He never really paid any attention. But this night, when I came up with Cecily Tyson with the big afro, homeboy looked at me and he just smiled. He gave me a big smile and kind of nodded his head like, yeah. You know, so I was like, okay, I finally impressed Miles Davis. But I go inside and Freddie Hubbard is in there, and Freddie Hubbard and I have become friends. So we sit at the table with Freddie Hubbard. It's real cool. All the musicians come over, they say hello to me and they say hello to the lady. Okay, it's going fabulously great. So we leave there, I'm feeling real good, and I'm saying like, so I guess I'm gonna be taking you home now. She said, well, no, actually, I wanted to take you to a nightclub. Okay, it's midnight. And she wants to take me to a nightclub. So I say, okay, cool, let's whatever, you know. I want to hang with you anyhow, so I don't care where you go. We go to the nightclub, and this is my first time ever being in, we used to call it a Latin nightclub back in the day. It was where a bunch of Puerto Ricans went, and they had like 4 or 5 bands come on one after the other, and they played music all night long. And I had never been there before, so she taught me how to do the dance and stuff. I was turning it around, and I had it going on. But I'd never been to a place like this before, so I was like, man, this is really cool. I really like these people, I like the music, I like the dance. So she came to the college that I was at. And she became a student at the college where I was. And we had this great time. I introduced her to jazz, and she introduced me to Latin dancing. And during the week, we would just be practicing our little Latin dances and stuff like that. And it was really cool. We were dating for about a year when she came to me and she said, I am Puerto Rican. Now, I kind of knew she was Puerto Rican because she spoke a lot of Spanish with her friends. And when I met her mom spoke Spanish, her father spoke Spanish. So I don't know why she's telling me that she's Puerto Rican. She know I know she's Puerto Rican. She said, so I have decided that I am going to go to a program in Puerto Rico next year. And so I'm not going to come back to the school. I'm going to school in Puerto Rico. That's when I said, I know you want to leave me. And so she decided that she's going to do this. She's going to Puerto Rico. So I said, okay, cool. She goes to Puerto Rico. I mean, like the first month that she was there, I think she must have written to me every day. By the second month, she was writing me maybe every 2 or 3 days. And then by the third month, I think I got like about 1 letter a week. And I was feeling a little something. I said, like, you know what? I'm gonna pack up all my stuff and I'm moving to Puerto Rico because I got to be with this woman. So I packed up everything, I gave away a bunch of my stuff and whatnot, and I went to Puerto Rico. When I got to Puerto Rico, there she was, in the condado, we at the beaches, we having a good time because I started out when I got there, I had quite a little bit of money. And we were partying and doing all kinds of stuff. But I noticed that a lot of the places that we went, most of the times that we went, there was this guy. And nobody ever introduced me to him, but it looked like he was watching me all the time. Okay, every place I went, there he was watching me. He never said anything to me. He just looked at me and he just watched me. Couldn't figure out what was going on. So now I'm in Puerto Rico. I've met a few people, I'm trying to get a job and stuff like that. And finally somebody explained to me, the guy that keeps looking at you is a professor at the university where your girlfriend goes. And before you got here, they were dating. It's like, oh, so she's dating him. He looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm looking at him like he's crazy. And now I'm finding out that this is the end of my love affair. And that's when I decided that I was going to the first place that I could think of where they had people that just spoke English. And the closest place was the Virgin Islands. So I went to the US Virgin Islands. And when I got there on my first day, I got a job working at the St. Thomas Daily newspaper. And that's my story.
Know you wanna leave me, but I refuse to let you go. If I have to beg, plead for your sympathy, I don't mind, 'cause you mean that much to me. Ain't you proud to beg? And you know it. Please don't leave me, girl. Ain't you proud to plead, baby, baby? Please don't leave me, girl. Now I've heard a crying man is half a man with no sense of pride. But if I have to cry to keep you, I don't mind weeping if it'll keep you by my side. Ain't you proud of me, sweet darling? Please don't leave me, girl. Ain't you proud of me, baby, baby? Please don't leave me, girl. If I have to sleep on your
anyway, where do they buy their first car? No. Anyway, well, does anybody have a question they'd like to start with about? Yes, please.
Abdul,
I didn't do it.
what college were you talking about? I think I went there
I went to the State University of New York in Binghamton.
in Binghamton,
Yes.
okay? And what did you do at the newspaper in the Virgin Islands?
I was the editor of World and National News.
And was that your career then, a journalist?
No, see, I was living in Puerto Rico.
Mhm.
I could not get a job. And the reason I couldn't get a job is because my Spanish wasn't good enough. I wasn't fluent in Spanish. So I decided that since I was broke and I needed a job, I needed to get to a place where people spoke English. So I got there, and I didn't have very much money. And I ran into this guy who was moving out of the hotel that I was moving into. And he said, I got a place that's much cheaper than this. You want to come with me? And I said, yeah, sure, And the next day he went down to the employment office. So when he went to the employment office, I went with him. And that's how I ended up getting my job there. Of course, the lady did say that I reminded her of her son.
Well, that helps.
It did.
Who else has a question?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So when I was, well, thank you, first of all, for all your stories. That was, really quite a treat, each one of you. I had the distinct impression that, for Howard and, sorry, what's your name, sir?
David.
David, yes. That your stories could be, well, first of all, the question is, do you plan to expand your stories? Because when you were talking, both of you, I thought, wow, you could really expand each character. Like you could have a vignette for like 20 minutes each. Like, how are they interacting in their community with different, members of the family or community, and how are they in different, environments like that. That totally expanded. I thought, and then for David's, I thought you were explaining things as if I could see a movie from it. Like the way you were just, I don't know why.
Excellent. I'm trying to create a movie in your mind, in fact.
Yeah.
And the full show is about 90 minutes long, and I have to tell you, the second to last scene is at a big drag show, and I drink a lot of alcohol. They had bottomless mimosas. They just kept bringing carafe after carafe. What could I do?
So Howard, do you see?
No, I do, but all of them, I have more stuff, all of them, so I have been working on X-Men.
Howard, may I ask you what your day job is?
I actually, I sell body oils and incense.
How did you move into acting?
I've always been curious, even as a kid. And, I've always been somewhat an encouragement from it. So, I think I was probably a little too cool in high school to be in drama, even though, and some of that had a lot to do with it. But I've been around a lot. I have a lot of friends that are in the industry and stuff, doing different things. But again, my bucket list, you have to get a little older, you've been doing things, so this is the thing.
So how long have you been doing the acting?
Since I've been started here was 2022 November.
Great.
Yeah, I haven't really done a couple little things over, for nothing.
I was wondering how that fit into the Marine Corps.
Well, no, that's
That was
actually
your dad.
I've never been.
Okay,
You-
I'm totally the opposite.
okay.
You
I was
know,
wondering
of anybody, but that is my father. The Marines, and all that. But all the characters are people, like the middle character is a bunch of people. So they're all different, inspired by different people. But when she talks about expanding it, my idea of expanding is including other men and doing something besides my characters, with other men speaking on.
Is your father still alive?
No.
No, so he never saw this.
No, but my siblings have seen it. Different. In fact, my cousin actually watched tonight, so she actually even texted me. She hadn't seen it since like my first one, which is I've come a long way. I just tell you that. I've got a long way to go, but I'm getting there.
Can I just, I wasn't sure, like, if that was a question for everybody. Did you answer, Abdul? Did I miss it?
Did I answer that? Which question is it that I didn't answer?
Well, no, I'm not sure, because maybe I spaced out for a minute. I thought sorry, this woman who asked a question of all three of you, but maybe, never mind. My mind was at the North Pole.
Well, I have a new book out.
Yes, mention that, please.
It's called African Love Songs, and it's available. And tomorrow night, we are having a book signing, a book party. And there are flyers here available for anybody who'd like to come, like to invite anybody who'd like to be there. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Excellent.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and ask the question. Abdul, do you plan to expand your story? You kind of brought it to a close and left us hanging, and I was interested in hearing the rest. You said that's my story, but I thought there probably should be more.
Okay, I have a book that is a book full of stories. I didn't bring any copies from me, and it's called Back in the Day. So there are about 20-minute stories in that book. And so they address a lot of different issues, and I like to show some of the variety of life and lifestyles in the communities that I come from.
I just want to make a comment. I was here the last time we redid it, and I liked it that the two of you did different things. It was nice. I mean, I like yours too, Howard, but it was nice to hear the second part of the story and then a different story from you too. That was great.
Cool, thanks for coming back.
Yeah. So David, you're kind of already a success. You've got a one-man show at the Hobart.
I don't know about success, but I keep on making shows. This is my 9th show. I've been doing this for a number of years, and I'm actually going to be heading out on tour. I'm bringing the show to New York in April at Wild Project, and then in DC in May, and then June, July, and August, I have a bunch of festivals in Canada I'm taking the show to.
Are you taking it to Miami?
That's an excellent question. I'm scared to take it to Miami. I have some pieces of this show that do not reflect well on the populace of Miami, and I'm a little bit afraid that Noah, as I'm calling him, might decide to show up at the show. I'm not really anxious for that to happen, so we did not, as you might guess, leave things in the best of situations by the end of this entire encounter. And if nothing else, I can guarantee you he never paid me the second half that he owed.
Yes, sir.
Abdul, I noticed that the few times that I've seen you do what you do, you always sing. Do you have any events coming up where you just sing?
Not anytime soon. I have a musical that I'm doing called Revolution of the Blues. And so I'm still working with some actors and musicians on when we're going to do that. I'm figuring that's not going to be ready until June or July. I'm going to try to see if we can do it in June. But yeah, I like to sing and I like music.
I can tell.
But if you actually seen me, when you get an opportunity to see me perform more, you'll realize that sometimes I don't sing at all.
Okay.
The Temptations, 1967, the Blue Album.
Yeah, I liked all the Temptation albums. But I used to, the thing is, growing up in Harlem, it was kind of like you could use those lines to talk to girls, and so that's, That's what I did, you know. You got a smile so bright, you know, you could have been a candle. You know, girls kind of like that stuff, you know. You dancing with them and you singing while you dancing with them and stuff, they kind of like that, you know. So I kind of left that in my repertoire for a long time.
I have a question for all three of you that just sort of hit me. What is the weirdest, strangest, or thing that has ever happened to you on stage? You know, whether it's wardrobe malfunction, dogs running across the stage, lights going out, the shower upstairs, pouring over the stage, anything like any version of anything like that, that you all might have to share. Howard, I'll start with you.
I guess, of course, the first time I performed here, like I kind of, my best part, which is my father, of course, I didn't do it. So, and I probably should have, but I wouldn't kind of do it. But other than that.
Okay, so you weren't comfortable that first time doing that.
Well, what it was, that was what I knew the best, but I went with something else, and that threw me all the way off. Instead of going, you know, yeah.
So you absentmindedly forgot to do it? or-
No, again, from where I'm at now, if you seen my first show, it's completely, you know, completely different. So, I mean, completely different, so. The stuff I was trying, I say what I was first trying, the first two times wasn't working. In my mind, and, you know, so, yeah. And like my very first time, I totally went blank, you know, and then again, knowing, of course, I'm not a professional like these guys, so I confess to the audience, of course.
But you keep coming back.
Oh, yeah. This is, you know, if I don't do nothing else, I'll be trying to perfect this. Well, and I'm working on some other stuff, but this is my baby now, so I want to really want to take this somewhere,
Yeah,
hopefully. But I got a lot of work to do, but
you know.
they can. Yeah. But these guys, again, that's the thing about every show I've done, I've learned from the other people, and also, you know, because I've come to other shows that I'm not even, you know, I've learned every time I've gotten something from somebody.
And Brian Copeland, of course.
I seen him years and years ago. You know, the first time I probably even came, I don't know, man, I was with a girlfriend. You know, because this is being at the March has always been like on my bucket list. You know what I'm trying to say? So when I first came here, it really happened. So I've always read about it. I know, you know, so I've seen, you know, I knew he was here, and I did catch him one time. And I ran into Don Reed. I was coming out of an open mic in Chinatown, and I knew who he was. And it was a trip. Yeah, it was cool.
Abdul, any kind of a on-stage story where things didn't go right?
Yeah, one time in particular, I was doing children's theater, and one of the props was a rake. And when the guy was using the rake, he accidentally hit my foot, cut my foot. My foot started bleeding. And so I just kept going on like my foot wasn't bleeding. And I wasn't in a panic, you know, but I was kind of panicking inside. But I think that's like the biggest, what I would call mishap that I ever had on stage.
But the show went on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I just cut my foot.
I have two short stories. One, I brought a show years ago to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and it was a weird avant cabaret puppet show thing. So very adult themed, but with hand puppets. And when you're in Edinburgh, you try to promote the show anywhere you can, out on the street. And there are people who are doing mime or playing songs, whatever it is. And I set up a little mini stage with my puppets, and I'm down there, and I can't see who's watching. So I'm doing my puppets. It's the middle of the day, and you do this to try and get audience to come to your show at night. And I'm doing a scene, and it somehow did not occur to me that if you do a puppet show out in public, there may be parents with children who come along who might be interested. And it starts out pretty tame, and then it gets kind of, well, there's a romantic scene, let's say, between two of the puppets. And the parents who had brought their children over to watch what was happening were not very pleased. The only other thing I can tell you is that I once did a show with an ASL interpreter who she was doing sign language the whole time. And I was very excited by this. I'd never worked with an ASL interpreter. And the show was about my dating life. It was called Fuck Tinder, a love story. And I told the interpreter, who was a woman, if you want, we can play around during the show. And if you have any thoughts or commentary about what I'm saying, shoot me a look and sign stuff at me. Now, I can't read, I can't understand sign language, but there were a few different times during the show where she started giving me playful side eye, and someone or a bunch of people in the audience who did understand ASL started laughing, and I got the very strong impression they were not laughing with me, they were laughing at me.
Did you ever find out what she was?
I don't know what she said, but it was in good fun, and I have to say, I would love to work with another ASL interpreter. I think what they do is magical and beautiful, and I would love to be able to express myself to the deaf community as well.
Great.
Well, before we head out, finally, our usual sort of last question for everybody. What's coming up next? Where can we find you on social media or stone tablets or whatever way you advertise yourself? And David, let's start with you.
Sure. You can find me online, David Rodwin, and the show is MiamiMadnessComedy.com. I have 2 more performances of the whole thing this Thursday and Friday at 7:30 p.m. at the Hobart Building downtown, where I have turned a screening room into a pop-up theater for the rest of this week. And other than that, just check out the website and see where I'm wandering around to. Thank you.
Tomorrow night we have a book release, and you're all invited, 1195 Evans at the old Speakeasy Brewery. And on Wednesday night, I'm doing the Mechanics Institute.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Corey Rosen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Corey's a good friend of mine.
Excellent.
So I'll be doing that. And then I'm going to take a month off to cool out and spend some time with my granddaughters.
I'm doing some writing, but my Lenny character, which everybody my siblings are crazy. But on Wednesdays I spend the whole day as Lenny, so that's the work of my life. I've been doing that all year.
Tell your royals and
wherever I go, everywhere I go, and it's funny. Some people that know me, I try to stay in character so I don't explain what I'm doing sometimes. So one guy's a preacher. He went to another. I told him, your boy went crazy. You gotta really go. But anyway, yeah. So on Wednesdays, because I'm really trying to immerse myself into the acting thing. So I'm trying to catch up. So that's what I do. My Wednesdays, I'm letting. So I don't do social media. So I spend a lot of time. I become from a party animal from when my 20s, 30s, and now I'm 60 plus. I pretty much just read, write, watch, podcasts. So that's about it.
I'm wondering, what is the writing process for you? And do you wake up in the morning and get to write?
That's the best time for me because I'm a hustler, I'm a grinder. End of the day, I'm poop. So yeah, and I because I'm serious about this. I have my Wednesdays my creative day. So every day, no matter what on Wednesday, I spend the whole day doing creative stuff.
well, let's give our performers one round of applause. And thank you, audience members. You know, it sounds simple, but it's true. No live theater without an audience. Thank you very much.